Hello, and welcome to Pause It For Me. I'm Hannah, and I'm here with my lovely husband, Andrew.
Hello!
And continuing our series interviewing local Ottawa filmmakers, we have our good friend, Kevin. Hello, Kevin.
Hey guys, thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
So we know Kevin. He's a very close friend of ours. I met Kevin through our production company that we work for, Extreme Line Productions. We do corporate video. We've done corporate video for the past several years, and we've gotten quite close over our time working together. And so, Kevin, can you just give our audience a background as to you as a filmmaker and how you got into the creative process of filmmaking?
I think it goes way back to when I was a kid playing around in my dad's basement, and also like going on family trips and just having an old, high cassette digital camera that I got to play around with.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, just being bored and being allowed to play with that, I realized you could do a lot of really cool things. And I also think it was whenever we would watch back home videos, I kind of wondered why it would like go from the, baby shower, and then all of a sudden it like cuts and now we're in like a completely different place. And there's like so jarring as a kid, right? Because you're still trying to understand what the heck's going around.
Yeah.
And then you're seeing like this time warp. So when I started to experiment with that, it was a case of where you could make little toys like disappear and reappear if you just kept the camera still. So like very rudimentary, visual effects because the camera's not moving. And so I remember doing some little animations with that. And to me, that was like magic. That was really cool to do. And then just also getting creative with pointing at camera at myself. But then obviously growing up, going to school, you're like, you gotta do this. You gotta get a job. And in high school, it's the worst when you're like, you gotta pick your courses because you gotta know what you want to do with the rest of your life. And so that comes with all of its stresses. And I remember one year doing a video assignment for a project. And I remember editing that video like every single spare minute I had right up. Like, I think it was probably one of the first all-nighters I spent.
Oh, that can be fun.
Yeah. And I remember like obsessing about making it perfect and wanting it to be really cool and having so much fun, and I couldn't wait to show it off and be really proud of it. And then I reflected on all of the essays I had written and all of the other like tests I had written, and just not giving a about like editing or revising, or I was just like, I would write it and be like, I'm handing this in. Like, I don't really care much about it.
Right.
And I realized, oh, hang on a second. People take the same amount of time and attention that I would do for editing a video or editing something like that to their written work, or they, to me, there's clearly something that I like in video that I don't like in writing. So for me, that was a huge sign. That was like, maybe this is what you want to do. Maybe this is what you really like. So in high school, that's what kind of made the decision was there. So pursuing some post-secondary education in stage and screen, because I was also really interested in theater. And yeah, all throughout my university career was working on theater shows, working on short films with friends, and that was kind of just cementing my love for it. And that was when I really started to like learn actually like what the industry is, and well, not even the industry. What are the processes of editing? What are the processes of directing? What are the processes of writing? So
I'm sure the theater background helped as well. Just working with actors and that kind of thing. Yeah. Queens has
a really solid student theater like sector, like sphere. So I was working on a lot of shows, and I would say my university career was very much a theater career, like a theater background.
Right on. Yeah. When it comes to that time, like college is obviously such a time when like your future starts to be shaped, and your current self is the beginning of that starts to be shaped. I'd love to hear about some of the more standout projects from that time, whether they were, video filmmaking related or stage related.
Some standout projects that always come to mind. One of which was my experience as a head of carpentry for a drama series that was a lot of fun because it was also one of like the biggest responsibilities I had for a show. And it was just, it's what I love doing. It was like I was able to create something tangible. And this is kind of where I was going earlier, is that I think I realized maybe it's not so much film and theater that I love. I just like being creative. Like I like creating. And creating videos was a very like tangible way of like making something and being able to show off and being like, oh, look at this awesome thing I made. So yeah, that show was definitely a lot of fun. Learned a lot of cool things. Some other experiences / moments that really stand out. This was like kind of after university though. It was like, I guess it was the fall of 2017. So just after we graduated, we shot Metalhead, which was like our biggest sort of like reach out to creating like a really cool big film. It was 3 full production weekends, and like I remember being exhausted. Or on one weekend where we spent all night just like prepping our location. It was a field way out in Prince Edward County, like an hour outside of Kingston. It was like went to bed at 11 p.m. the night before our first shoot day on a weekend to get up at 1 a.m. to go start prepping it for the shoot day. And I remember just like, I remember trying to drive to go get something in town for lunch that day and pulling over and being like, I should not be in this car. I'm going to pass out. I'm just so tired. But I don't want to like highlight the like, oh yeah, we worked ourselves to death. I just want to highlight the fact that it was a really good experience because it was the first time that we really went through a lot of production processes that as students we never had done before. Some of which being procuring permits for locations, more rigorous casting where it's not just like a, hey mom and dad, hey friend, right. And as well as just trying to give it, the good college try. So yeah, those two. So for theater and for film, those are 2 projects that stand out.
Right on. Well, you're bringing up a lot that I want to loop back around to, but just to draw a line from there to here, what keeps you busy on the filmmaking front these days?
So what keeps me busy these days, like this year, I guess if we want to be more specific, currently for work, I've been working obviously together. You mentioned it earlier at the podcast, with Extremeline Productions. And I actually changed up my role at this company this past year, whereas before we were kind of like the do-it-all producers. We would shoot, we would speak with the clients and relay any information with the clients, and we would edit and deliver to client. Like we would kind of do everything. We'd wear all the many hats,
like producing and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. And so I just decided that for me, editing wasn't where I really wanted to be spending a lot of my time. I describe it as sort of like sharpening a sword that I just didn't really want to use anymore. But for the last 4 years, I have been learning a lot about editing, and it's strengthened, I think, my abilities as a producer to kind of know what goes into editing.
And cinematographer.
Which was super great. But I wanted to really focus in on what I'm currently most passionate about is for like cinematography and director photography. And so what's keeping me busy now is trying to, still just doing that at work, right? Like going on set and being a director and being a DOP on set. And just looking for other productions around the city, whether they be other filmmakers that are starting stuff up. Nothing like super substantial yet. I'm still hunting and still trying to get more projects into the repertoire, but it was really nice to have that free time, even just to be more available and rather than like working all week and then being exhausted on a weekend, just needing to take a day off, where a lot of independent filmmaking happens on weekends. I would have the Thursday, Friday off and just like be able to be fully in go mode. So for me, that was a really positive shift. And it helped me just kind of experience more stuff in the city.
Absolutely. Now, as part of that, you've started to get involved with the Ottawa Kino Film Challenge Film Festival. Tell me about how that came about and how that's inspired you to either make more or contribute to other people's projects.
It was all serendipitous. It all started to kind of maybe just like taking that step away from editing is really what was the catalyst that sort of started all this. For anyone that doesn't know, it's a monthly film screening where filmmakers are encouraged to follow a theme and submit a film. I remember seeing it and I was like, I'm gonna go check this out. Pretty reasonable price, $10 at the door. Mm-hmm. I showed up. I had a lot of fun seeing the films that I watched, and I, found out the theme for next month, and I decided to submit something.
That was a really fun video, by the way. It was about plants.
Yeah, take it or leave it. Thank you, Hannah, for sharing that, because for a little while, for a couple months, that was my claim to fame in the Ottawa film industry. Maybe it still is. Maybe if I went up to someone, I was like, I'm the plant guy. They know exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, so I guess where we're going from that was kind of like me wanting to start making things. Kino is a great format because it really helps you. It encourages you to like create and move forward and like just keep creating.
Yeah, I think that can be a struggle for creative professionals is, how good can I get this? Is it like perfection? And with a monthly thing, you have like a strict deadline, and, it maybe allows you some license to be a little more messy and submit things maybe you don't feel are personally the best, but, you can learn from mistakes and grow. So,
yeah, exactly how I would describe it.
Now, I want to ask you an interesting question. You've been the inspiration for a question that I've asked other people, which is you have mentioned at one time or another that you're passionate about being creative and about making films. But when it comes to watching films, you're like, that's not necessarily my thing, or it's not like your favorite thing, So I want to ask what's the rationale behind that? And to bridge that to my next question, I'll ask the thing that I like to ask everyone who comes on the podcast, to name 3 films that describe your taste in movies. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping this informs the first question in that, if watching movies isn't like your main thing, despite enjoying creating movies, what kind of films do you like to watch and why?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So I'll speak to the first part of that. Yeah, I definitely acknowledge that I could watch more movies. Not to say like I've never, sat down and watched a film.
Yeah.
I think it just comes down to, from my previous story, I've always been fascinated and loved the idea of like creating something for people to see. And I acknowledge that, the more films you watch and the more films and the more directors that you are inspired by and the more things that you see out there, the more you can learn from, right? Having this like library of inspiration is important. I just have been somebody who likes video games more than more than
There's
film.
a storytelling sort of movie aspect to it.
Yeah, right. And like and narrative games. I've also just, for me, movies were, like for television especially, I would just get sleepy and I just I and then even more so when being at school, going like studying narrative filmmaking and theater completely doesn't ruin your experience. It completely changes your experience when engaging with the medium or with the art.
Mm-hmm. You can be a little more critical.
Well, you're a lot more critical at that point, right? You start to see more, you start to ask more questions, and that it just like that shift. I could seem to never. It's not that I never enjoyed films anymore. I just enjoyed them differently.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also actually a great way for me to then tell what I really liked, because I noticed films where I was not immersed and films where I was completely immersed. And that, to me, that was a surefire sign that like this work here has been done very well, because me, who's typically quite critical, I've been completely hooked. I'm completely engaged, and I forgot that I forgot to look for all these little things that I typically see. And so to come back to the second half of that question, about kind of what are some films that I guess I like to engage with or I like to watch. Mm-hmm. Thinking about that, I think 3 that stand out the most definitely have to be one from like my earlier filmmaking journey is The Book of Eli, which came out in 2010. Do you want me to speak about each one as I mention them, or
Sure.
just like
Well,
name
I
all
haven't
three?
I haven't seen the book
Maybe
of Eli,
how it
so-
influences
yeah.
you or
Yeah.
why it's on the list.
Yeah, I think the reason the Book of Eli is on the list is for it's like sort of it's post-apocalyptic world, but it's just the production design of it. I remember being very, very like grungy and stark, and also just like there's a good mix of action and a good mix of sort of like you're like what the heck is going on. There's a bit of mystery to it without it being like a whodunit.
Right.
With a great twist. I'm a sucker for twists. Which I think another one of my films speaks to that. Second on the list, I think has to be a very, very recent film was Knives Out.
Right.
It's a great one. Ben also said that, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
He mentioned it anyways. Yeah.
I think it has to be a lot of storytellers' favorites because it's like anyone who likes mystery, anyone who likes like a mystery novel.
Yeah.
For me, those are the types of novels that I like to read. I found out that like I thought reading was hard, but it was just because I didn't
enjoy it.
Exactly, exactly. Once I found out what sort of novels I liked, I was like, oh, okay, no, wait a minute. You just have to read the right kind of book. So Knives Out for, again, now that's more of the whodunit, just the mystery aspect. You're constantly trying to like piece the puzzle together, and then having like, what's nice about it is that the twist is kind of there's like many twists. Anyway,
Right.
I'm not here to talk about Knives Out.
It's a little engaging because you're kind of trying to solve it along with them. So maybe like for someone that feels like they have to be productive, it's like, well, I'm solving a mystery.
Exactly.
So-
Yeah, exactly. And that's a little bit different than the Book of Eli because it's very like the style is very, very natural, very naturalistic. So it's but I think it was done very well. It's still very immersive for feeling like you're just kind of like looking at other people in the room. Whereas Book of Eli, you're completely looking into a different world. That's why I had that on the list. And to kind of like get to my third film here, the sort of like even more out of this world has to be Rogue One from the entire Star Wars world.
Okay, don't spoil.
That's the one I haven't seen.
Don't spoil for Hannah how
Oh
it ends.
my goodness!
But you can
Oh
tell
my
her what it's
goodness.
about if you want.
I'm a bold statement here. That is if it's the only one you haven't seen, it's like I think it's the best Star Wars film for many reasons. A, that it works as a standalone. Like you don't.
Okay.
It helps that you know everything else about the world, and about the universe of Star Wars. But again, it includes, and I think I'm noticing a common thread. It includes a lot of intrigue, a lot of mystery. It's definitely the darkest of the films of the entire. I mean, I know there's a lot of novels and there's a lot of TV shows about Star Wars, so I'm not going to go out and say it's the darkest, but it's definitely on the darker end where, it's not all just like fantasy rainbows.
It's
Sure.
not
It's more
Han Solo
humanized.
gunslinging as
Exactly,
much.
exactly. It's a bit more, for as much as Star Wars can be, it's a bit more humanizing, and I like it for that reason.
Yeah, I've showed
Sounds
Hannah
nice.
like the opening scene, maybe like the first 10 minutes of it.
Oh yeah, that was a rough scene for sure. I mean, all those movies kind of rely on some kind of tragedy to instigate things. So
Right on.
Yeah, it's quite tragic.
So when it comes to those three films, how do those films influence the movies that you want to make, or maybe some shorts that you've made already?
Well, if we look at Take It or Leave It, none of them are anything around that.
it's creative. It's different than maybe the typical storytelling thing, you could say. So.
Well, because I know you have a lot of projects in the back pocket. You have a lot of stuff brewing that maybe you're going to be taking action on in the future. Anything there that you feel like is influenced by these types of movies?
Oh, 100%. I mean, two of which that were in the back pocket, I unfortunately had to take them out of my back pocket because I, upon wanting to seriously produce one of them, the first step was figuring out, like, am I even allowed to do this? And I'll speak honestly about it. So I wanted to do a...
is this the
a
Stormlight
Sanderson-
Archives?
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to do a Dragonsteel Stormlight. It was... the theme for a thing right now is Bridge. And I was like, oh my gosh, Bridge 4. Like, let's go. This is the perfect excuse to make something. And so I just looked it up, and Brandon Sanderson has come out with a public statement saying that like fan art and fan illustrations, totally all good, like no worries there
Okay.
with certain guidelines. but he's put his foot down and he's like, absolutely no films.
Oh, wow.
Why?
Animations, nothing. And it's understandable. It's not just Stormlight, it's anything in regards to his publishing.
Mm-hmm.
He's just looking forward to the legacy of his works. And I think also kind of like you want sort of like a unity with everything that's related to your world. If there's a bunch of like different, I can understand, but I'm also so upset.
I would be
that's
upset
upsetting.
too, because I wouldn't want to like dampen somebody's creativity like that. Like you look at a property like Spider-Man, people love making Spider-Man fan films, and Ben Bergeron, who we just interviewed, was talking about how he made like enough shorts of Spider-Man fan films to make up a feature film length,
Right.
basically.
That's usually people's start into things is like you did like a James Bond parody and like
In high school,
and what was it, that movie with the jail?
Get there, you got
Yeah.
this. I did like a reenactment
Shawshank
of
Redemption.
Shawshank
Oh,
Redemption.
yeah.
Yeah. And then Fallout is another one that they had Fallout Nuka Break on YouTube, which was a unlicensed fan film, and then they turned it into a possibly licensed miniseries. I loved that. I thought that was awesome. So I love the idea of making fan films and stuff like that. So
I know a lot of other people would like it, and it's I think there's ways around that where. So I guess what I was trying to say is that a lot of Sanderson's themes are that sort of like dark fantasy,
right.
which is exactly when I think back to like my favorite films that I've just not favorite films, but like what styles intrigue me.
Yeah.
It's like, there they are. I'm for anyone out there who's read Stormlight Way of Kings and has seen the Book of Eli and has seen Rogue One, like just let all those images and let that storytelling into your mind, and just like this very, very like dark reality for these characters. That's what I wanted to do. But anyway,
it seems like you like very expansive worlds with like detail and story building, and I know you like really crunchy board games that have a lot of rules and a lot of different aspects to them. So maybe those two play into each other somewhat.
Yeah, maybe there is that. I always love to get to know more about the world and more about the lore per se when I'm really hooked. That's so another project that's like, everyone always has their when I have the time, when I have the money, or when I have the big when it's the time to make it. There is an epic sort of futuristic fantasy. I don't even know what to describe it. It would be sci-fi. I need to flesh it out, but it's definitely science fiction, and that idea I've started workshopping in a different way. Typically, when I want to make something, it comes from an image, and then I start to write the script around that. This is one where I've started doing the world building before it.
Right.
So maybe it's like, maybe I didn't realize that I'm actually getting ready to write a novel, but
Well, that's
I
fun.
digress.
And then you could turn that into a movie.
Exactly. And I mean, let's be real. That's how a lot of content gets made,
sure.
right? Novels get sold. Producers are like, hey, that sells. Let's turn it into a film. But yeah, I've started doing the world building around it. So it was very strange to be like, these are the types of characters. This is the world they're living in, rather than just being like, this is character A that's doing this and talking and like starting a script that way. But maybe I'm just like delaying the inevitable because I don't actually want to write it. So but anyway, I see it as productive work anyway, doing that world building.
Right on. Well, I know you play D&D, right?
Yes.
And do you DM?
I have done a couple one-offs just because for time reasons and not wanting to fully commit to a full campaign.
Yeah.
I feel like one-offs are great to be able to like come up with a really cool, fun adventure for friends, and then just not have to like, hey, are you free this month? Are you free this week?
Yeah, that's a big commitment.
Well,
For
maybe
sure.
here's your writing process, right? So you do all this world building and you flesh out this, like the basic story elements. Then you set a D&D campaign. You bring some friends in and then you record it. They play for like 2.5 hours. And then whatever they say during that, however the adventure goes, boom, there's your script.
There you go.
Andrew, great minds think alike. That is such a good idea, man. That is honestly such a great idea. And yeah, I can't say, I definitely have to say I have thought about that, and there's definitely an element of like finding the right crew who obviously would like to be a part of that. I don't know if you and Andrew and Hannah want to be in a campaign. Well, we can be co-writers together.
It sounds like so much fun too. And then the people who originated their characters in the campaign can act as the characters.
That is a great idea. Honestly, I think you just came up with our next writing workshop, our next way of writing a script.
Heck yeah, that sounds awesome. So bringing it back to filmmaking. So, we work on a lot of small scale productions, just to fill in some blanks here. Kevin and I have worked together for a number of years, but we also just worked together heavily on Coffee to Cocktails. I brought Kevin on as co-cinematographer and camera operator for many of the shoots. And then due to a last second pivot, Kevin stepped in as one of the principal actors.
You really saved the production.
For sure. And so that was an epic a pro gamer move, as as many on the internet might say. And so I want to ask about small independent productions like that. So you do a lot of you've done directing on set, not necessarily for many narrative productions, but for a lot of the corporate video that we shoot. It does involve a lot of directing talent and having a vision, being behind the camera, and doing many other things. So when it comes to being like a Swiss Army knife of production skills, you mentioned wanting to take a step away from editing. What are the types of roles on a production that you gravitate towards outside of directing versus what are the roles on a set that you're like, I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. Let somebody else do that. Not me, not me.
Yeah. Great questions. And I would, the one that I'll start with the 10-foot pole because it's still the one that is currently at the end of that pole. It's editing. And for a couple of different reasons is maybe, it could also just be the type of editing. Cause right now I'm currently looking into what are the beginnings of learning like, VFX, like image compositing and using Blender and using, things like Unity to create animated worlds to really create a much more, again, fantasy and sci-fi to create like a broader
something otherworldly, yeah.
Exactly, because I'm not going to go build a castle face for a film, but like you can get some pretty cool assets online. So, I guess editing in regards to like the standard cutting the film together, but I am very interested right now in VFX. But the reason I think that I'm not like contradicting myself is that there's so much pre-production and production that has to happen and that you have to know for VFX to work effectively, right? Like, how is the scene lit so that it can be composited well with your virtual
shadows and
right? And I actually took a bit of an experiment and a bit of a I did like a little workshop with a very short film that I made. I think you guys have seen it, the Fireflies.
Yeah.
I worked with my niece. Yeah, I was like, I got together with my niece for an hour and I was like, how can I use lighting and then a visual element to make it look realistic, to make this like VFX element work. And that was, again, very minor, but I want to do something larger where it's like, you've got an epic background or you've got, again, part of this bridge is how do you create a terrain, or how do you create something where it isn't just like a field in Ottawa, you know what I mean? Like,
for sure. Yeah.
So
I think technology has come leaps and bounds in like the last few years, especially just like AI working with art. Like, it's a new thing in the photography sector anyways, is just doing like background replacements, generative like expansions, and like, stuff that wouldn't have been possible a couple years ago now is possible, with video editing software. There's like relighting features. Like, if you mess it up on the day, you can relight it. And,
That's
it's easier than ever to composite because like you can do the AI tracking of movement and stuff. It's really a great time to get started in it because it's probably a lot easier than it was like 10, 15 years ago. So
I'm hopeful for that. So there's that element of I guess post-production / pre-production VFX, But another element that I love to gravitate towards probably has to be, and this speaks to my I guess it's because it's what I know, more production design and set design.
Yeah, because you helped build the part of the set on
Right.
Coffee Cocktails.
It was very minor. You had the vision and you came up with like a beautiful cafe facade, and it turned out. Every time I show people, they're like, "Wait, what?"
It's a bedroom.
And yeah, exactly. But that's what I like, right? It's so much fun. I get excited about that rather than being
too.
Oh, I have to edit this 2 hours. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I get excited and want to show up and do that. But something I want to do and learn more for the sake of learning it is I just want to do more audio mixing. Right?
That's smart,
Interesting. Okay.
I feel like
I didn't expect that answer, because I remember you saying that, on future projects you want to bring in a dedicated audio person.
Because I always don't learn it.
Exactly. Yeah. So you feel like you don't want to do it, but also you do want to do it, sort of?
So it's, I guess to clarify, it's what I have, I have like kind of circled around in my learnings and in my experimentations. Obviously with work, it's pretty easy to like set up an interview microphone, and it's pretty easy to get like an ambient mic for getting visuals and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not like I don't know how to use a microphone. What I more so mean is how do you, I guess, capture audio on set in a way for a narrative production that is that is productive, is time efficient, and you're getting all the coverage that you need to create a very, very awesome soundscape on your finished film. I always love mastering what the image looks like, but I've just never been like, I'm not going to look at the camera. I'm not going to look through the camera. You obviously still look through the script because you want to see how the story goes, and you're going to look through the camera because you need to see what is seen, what is heard. But I just know that the same way that I think about what an image looks like or what the characters are doing, you need somebody who's just as hungry and is like, what do I need to point my microphone at that's going to like get the best audio? What do I need the actors to do one more time to make sure I have that sound clip for my editor so that we don't have to do it in Foley? I've actually also wanted to just shoot something, mute all the audio, mute all the microphones while shooting it, and then come in and completely redesign the sound, not like change the sound effects, but like
create
do like
the sounds
complete
from
Foley.
scratch.
Like El Mariachi is they shot it without sound.
Yeah, anytime the camera was rolling, sound wasn't rolling, basically.
Yeah. I mean, that's something I want to do just out of like, again, the same way as the Fireflies was just like a practice / a workshop. I've been wanting to do that, and I just, we always say we want to do things and we don't end up doing it.
I mean, I think it's a good thing for you to learn. You seem like a pretty well-rounded person, like learning different aspects of art and just being able to push yourself creatively. And I strongly encourage you. Like, I think, that'll better your filmmaking techniques just in general. Even if you're not the sound mixer, you'll be able to ask the sound mixer to get stuff that you need. So
yeah, thanks, Anna, for that. And exactly, that's exactly, the more you know about all of the production aspects, the better you are in your specific role, right?
Yeah.
That's why, again, I'm still very early in my career. I wouldn't say that I'm strictly a DOP. I wouldn't say I'm strictly a director. I just still want to know how it all works and then how to become a better creator in general.
For sure. Now, I want to dig a little deeper on your answer here because it's interesting. Ben, who we interviewed just yesterday, actually gave the opposite answer. He said he's capable on camera, but it's not really his thing. But he loves editing, especially editing his own stuff. So what is it that draws you towards crafting an image and playing around with light and being behind the camera versus what turns you off from the editing process? This just like the straight cuts.
Well, I think it comes to my personality, and I think it comes to what I like about directing so much. It's the difference between sitting at a desk in a chair versus like moving my body and interacting with another human being.
Right.
I
I hear what you're saying.
I think my answer would be different if I was filming mannequins. right?
For sure.
And I got to edit in a classroom with a bunch of people around me. I would probably be reversed.
That's true. Yeah.
So
the social aspect, I guess.
I think it definitely is, where there's just something about, the creative output aside, like, because you can be extremely creative, and what I want to not get anything misconstrued. I don't not like editing because I don't think it's not as creative as being behind a camera. It's extremely creative. They're like, you can completely change and create something very fun and very interesting. So I think it strictly comes down to moving my body.
For sure.
And yeah, I mean, it's not that I don't like being in front of a screen. My favorite hobby is playing video games. I love being in front of a computer for hours at a time, like enjoying a story and being fully immersed. And that's also what I think helped me tolerate editing for so long. Is I could sit in front of a computer. But so what draws me more? Definitely people, and in a way, I think it could be similar to why I like wanted to do sound mixing or why I want to do VFX. I guess I was very curious and interested in terms of like how much more of the envelope I could push in terms of how do I change my compositions to be more artistic or to be more creative rather than just like point and shoot. And lighting was a very big one, was like starting to kind of really realize how much more can I do with lighting. In editing, I mean, maybe with AI,
there's some limitations, but yeah.
Yeah, but I just see, I guess I'm in the feedback loop now of like, now I'm filming stuff and changing where I'm putting my lights and to seeing how that affects the image.
Tedious.
And right now I'm still just focusing on the lights pointed at the subject, but I know I want to get more into like, now I'm going to start removing all light sources from the background and start to put in your own, and like, how does that affect it, right?
Right.
Because what we do on set sometimes is we sort of use the environment to our advantage and film in the environment. So just like, aside from when we want to do like a full lighting, 3-point lighting setup, and what I want to do more of is like have full, complete control over that canvas and completely paint with light. And I think Fireflies was the kind of first film that I actually ever really did that. And because we shot it in the dark.
Yeah.
So that's a really good way to have that. And yeah, it also helps that like watching different YouTubers and proclaimed filmmakers on YouTube talk about their process and their different lighting setups and what they like also helped inspire me, because it's again more visual feedback of like, oh yeah, like that is very different, that looks very different, and so now I want to extend that and find out like what are some films that I've seen that I've really liked for one reason or another, who shot that, and what are their other films like.
Right. Yeah.
I've never
DOPs. Yeah.
Exactly, because I've never like dug into a director, dug into a DOP as I believe I should have as a true academic, as a true creative. I've always just like liked films and been like, yeah, that was fun, and I liked it for this reason, I liked how it was shot. But I think the first director that I've really started to like begin to watch all their films, inspired by you guys actually, is Wes Anderson.
Oh yeah, he has a very strong creative vision that maybe is appealing to you.
Yeah, and I love that. And it's not to say that like I didn't know that existed. I didn't know that was true.
Right,
I definitely understood that like different directors and different DOPs, even different sound mixers, they have their own style, their own flavor that they like to bring. But I guess that's just the where I'm currently, I guess, the most fixated on is the imagery and the the painting of the 24 frames a second.
Yeah.
Right.
I would say like some people like Andrew, he's drawn to the heart of like storytelling, filmmaking, that kind of thing. I'm definitely drawn to like the visual aspect. Other people are drawn to different aspects. Would you say like you're more drawn to the visual aspect more than like the heart of it, you know?
I think so currently. Yeah. And I've always told myself that I think, directing and producing is the end goal, which is, it's kind of like what I'm always falling back towards. I mean, we're producing and directing with Extreme Line Productions, but it's, we still haven't broken into film and television. And so I am very excited to, like, that's why Coffee to Cocktails was so much fun. And you've said it before, Andrew, that it's like, was sort of a reminder / like a realization of there doesn't have to be this huge barrier around feature length, around 90 minutes. So that's why I'm super excited, because that's like our really first stab at like a feature film, and a proof that, like, yeah, just make it, just make something and go for it.
Yeah,
sure.
You can learn so much from the experience.
Well, tying that back into your answer, I think the social aspect of why you're drawn to certain roles on and off set, I think that makes a lot of sense, because you're definitely a social butterfly, social lubricant of sorts. And that's what makes you so great on set with Extreme Line, is that you're the art of the schmooze, and you're able to get what you want out of people through directing and all that. One of the things that makes you so great as a creative, especially on Extreme Line sets, is that you always have a vision for another shot. There's been many a time when I'm trying to drag you off set, and I'm like, Kevin, the shoot's over, we got to go. And you're like, but I have this one other idea for another shot, just like 5 more minutes, and actually 10 more minutes, because I want to get these other shots. And that's great that you always have that creative drive in you. So what I want to ask is, how has your years of experience in the corporate video sector affected your technique when it comes to more narrative, independent productions, or the kinds of things that you want to do moving forward?
Oh, I think the number one thing that stands out is efficiency. And like when you're on set on a corporate shoot, all shoots are different. So I don't want to paint in broad strokes here. I feel as though the type of shooting we do, there's a good mix. There's the fly on the wall event capture, where we're sort of like,
we have to find the story.
Exactly. Yeah. So more to like documentary filmmaking.
Yeah.
And those are harder because, like, you have to sometimes recoax people to do something that you saw that you really liked. That's my biggest tip that I tell people.
I usually don't do that.
Oh, fair.
I usually, that's just my own preference as like a shy person. I'm trying to be like super sneaky and be like, oh, like that was great. Like I wouldn't, like, I don't know. But I enjoy the aspect of like people that can do that. Like, oh, that was really great. Can you do that for me again? But I would just be too
that's
shy.
That's my favorite thing to do. I love doing that. And, sometimes you do just try to capture that genuine moment. But as anyone who has ever tried to capture an event in any medium, photography or video, that sometimes those moments are just fleeting. But I love, and especially because like it also is very fun for the folks there. Obviously, you play it by ear, but when video cameras or photography cameras are on set, it's exciting for the people who are there. Sometimes they're dressed their best, and so they kind of feel like a superstar. They feel great when you ask them to do something again. So for me, just seeing them smiling and laughing is great. Versus a bit more of so I'm going to shift to kind of the other side of what we do is a lot more structured, whereas, the client and representatives, or even sometimes hired talent, is there for us. Yeah. And that's where we have a lot more of that creative, that like direction and that control over the creative output. And I think I like the social aspect of the aforementioned style more, where it's like just kind of like fly by the seat of your pants. But I love having a team there and having full creative autonomy, and like, but it's also a little bit more stressful too, because now it's like what you decided to set up is what exactly. It's what you get, and you're a lot more on the hook for that reason. But I do find in the end you're usually a lot more proud of it, because you're like, oh no, like we intentionally shot that this way and it's set up that way. And so in both cases though, you just have to be super sharp, and you have to be you have to be ready at all times. And I do find yeah, you kind of want to be anticipating your next shot, because something that we don't do in the sort of run and gun style is we don't storyboard and we don't shot list, because a lot of the times it's a new event space. It's we kind of don't really know what we're getting into. And so we have to creatively or find the shots as they happen. So even when we're in more of a structured set, and maybe we have had time to shot list and sort of think of what it's going to look like beforehand, it's still important to like know what the next thing's going to be, to keep the day moving, to keep the day going forward. And that's a given. That's an industry standard for film, right?
That's a learned skill, though.
Yeah.
Is being able to craft something on the fly. Whereas if you maybe only just come from a narrative film background, you're like, oh, well, we're planning this all ahead of time. Whereas like they have the luxury to do that. Whereas coming from more of a documentary corporate background, you've had the strong skill of being able to direct non-actors to get what you need out of the performance, get that authenticity, having to work really quickly, having to piece that together really quickly, like that puzzle, having to solve that puzzle of being like, the lighting sucks in here, we gotta like work with this person, like that can be a really fun puzzle. Like as a camera person myself, that can be one of my favorite parts, is just like feeling successful and being like, this could have been like crap, but we were able to like throw it together to make it something really cool. Hannah,
you of all people would know, right? Like you don't know what event venue you're getting into when you're running your business, so it's I can feel you like empathizing there. Another thing I wanted to tack on to that thought before we move on is I think I don't know if a director would love this a producer would love this on like, a $1 million production where it's been shot listed and we know what we're going in to get. I just know from what you said earlier, we would set up lights, we would set up a scene, and I would see something and be like, I know we're set to move on to this board. Like I just all of a sudden have a new inspired shot. Like, can we divert and get this? And I don't know how that would go.
Well, that's what you have ADs for,
Yeah.
You're probably the AD's worst nightmare.
Yes,
but
AD as well.
It might help the production. So I think it's good to have like a creative team that can support you and your vision. Be like, okay, like, yeah, like it's good to get those few creative shots because they might be really worth it in the end, instead of someone that's going to fight you being like, okay, well, we don't really need to get that shot because it's not important. Yeah. But just like having that team that will support you, being like, I trust you. Like, I know it's going to be a really great shot. It's going to be worth it. So, and
being an editor and knowing a lot of fundamentals about editing, you also know what that's another big thing I've noticed about my my style of capture as a videographer. And I think I actually have to give a shout out to Adam Langlois, the owner and boss of Extreme Line Productions, because he sort of mentored and taught all of us
definitely
in a great way, right? Having us shoot and edit our own work, it helps you realize kind of what you're chopping out and what you're using,
like cutting the fluff,
exactly, and like how to when editing in sequences, I just take that straight into my shooting, right? You like shoot in the sequence, don't and so now it's like, because when I was still editing my own things, I was like, I'm just going to like make it easier for myself in the edit. I'm going to shoot the sequences I want so that in my timeline, it's a lot more structured. And just like having that, having learned that, I think is important to go, right to the very end of my career. And I might learn something different and might learn something new, or that might be something that sticks with me. I don't know.
It's definitely a learned skill to know like what you're going to use and what you're not going to use. Like what's going to help the ultimate end product. Like I've had it before where I shoot something on set and I'm like, this shot is awesome. And then I think about it, I'm like, well, it really has nothing to do with the video that I'm shooting. And Scott talked about this, Scott Blurton, when we had him on a couple of episodes ago. He said that they shot a scene that they covered it from multiple different angles, and by the time they got it edited, it was just singing and it looked so professional, and they cut it out because it wasn't serving the story well.
It all comes back to story. Yeah, it all does. So
yeah, whatever the idea is you're trying to get across, a story you're trying to tell, you got to keep that in mind every step of the way. Now, we've obviously had many adventures on many different kinds of sets over the years. What tends to be the kinds of sets that you're drawn more towards? Like what what are some memorable, really fun set experiences that come to mind? What makes a good set for you, and what do you feel like you contribute to make a set environment even better?
I think being on set with where everyone wants to be there is important, and you get a lot of that in more so like independent productions where and again, when I'm speaking of independent productions, a lot of my experience has been like very low budget, friends and family work. Sometimes, most of the time, it's a lot of volunteer, a lot of honorariums. Nothing, because those are people who like want to be there. If it's like a paid gig, like one or two people are just there to get that paycheck,
right?
To maybe
They
be a
might
part of
phone it
another
in.
project, and it's just kind of like, yeah, is the day done yet? Not to say that like, everyone has their limits to volunteering. Like, no one wants to be on no one wants to volunteer a 14-hour day without being fed, right?
For sure, yeah.
Never been there, but I guess yeah. So the set that I love to be on is when everyone is just like hungry and it's working well together too, right?
Hungry?
Sorry.
Like eager.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, eager.
Okay.
And
because I was going to say the best sets that I've ever been on are ones that had really good food and a lot of food.
And you know what that shows, Andrew, because on Coffee to Cocktails, and you definitely made sure that our crew and our cast was very well fed. You and Hannah made some great meals, and it is important, right? Because people having the right kind of calories, not just like junk food, having the right kind of meals can really elevate the energy.
Yeah.
And even when we're on set with clients, when we get a lunch break, the client provides, that's like a huge motivation
It's a
booster.
big win.
That's so nice, just being able to take those few minutes to like recharge and get back to it. Because I'm sure we've all been on sets where that hasn't been the case, where you're just like running on empty all day.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that gets hard. Yeah, so, and I think the reason I like that is because everyone wants to bring their best. I think what I really like, this is kind of like an additional one, is I like being on a set when you're with a team that you kind of know what to expect and you know how to work with. And that just comes from our Extremeline team, right? We know what to say, we know who knows what, and that makes it for a really effective and efficient team where I'm not going to ask somebody, I don't have to have that awkward pause of like, what does this person know? Like, can I ask this of them?
Yeah.
So, and you only get that from working with a team day in, day out, 5 days a week,
For sure.
Yeah.
There's definitely a type of efficiency in that, because you can be like, hey, you're really great at capturing viz. Can you do that? And I can focus my efforts elsewhere and not have to worry about that. And whereas if you're working with people you don't know, you maybe feel like you have to shoot everything.
Yeah, exactly. And ultimately you could be doubling up on something, right?
Yeah.
Whereas everyone is like compressing their talent into one specific thing rather than broadening out and capturing more, or even just like, so I fully agree with that. So yeah, those are the two things where everyone's eager and hungry, but also a team that like, I'm sure everyone would love that.
Yeah.
Where you just know how everybody works well
For
together.
sure. I think that's why a lot of filmmakers will reuse a lot of people, is because it's just comfortable and fun and they know what they're going to get out of it.
And in my opinion, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No.
I think it is still important to like occasionally branch out and reach out and find more people to collaborate with. But yeah, having a solid team that you know how they work, that's huge on set.
For sure. And what do you feel like you enjoy personally bringing to sets to improve set life for other people?
So I think what I love bringing is definitely like a positive attitude. Right? No one wants to work with, be around anybody who is grumpy, right? To say it simply.
It brings the whole team down.
Yeah.
For sure. And humans are like such social creatures. Like right up to the point where like we sort of, people copy our, each other's stances when you're standing around a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't know that, next time you're having a conversation with somebody, like purposefully change your pose every 5 minutes and like take note of what the other person standing across from you, how they're posing. Like, so when you're upset and you're grumpy, other people, they could be super happy and they will get upset and get grumpy.
Yeah.
Which is obviously, a negative thing. So, keeping a positive mindset is important. Even like from high school, I used to just smile at people in the hallway.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still great when you see someone like, stomping around. You can't see my face right now on camera, but like stomping with the grumpy face and they're carrying their books and you just smile at them and all of a sudden they're like, why am I smiling? Oh, what have you done to me?
Yeah.
So it's, ultimately it brings up the energy.
100%.
Having worked with you on projects, I definitely see a certain passion that you bring to projects. Is, having seen you on and off set, you definitely, sometimes when you're really excited about something, like you're directing someone, you get really passionate and you light up and, it's like we're seeing your best self.
The smiles come out. Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, thanks guys. That, I appreciate that. And, everyone says that, you can only ever really see your true self through someone else's eyes. Like the image we have of ourselves is obviously very different. So I appreciate you saying that. And I definitely think I have to mention that like there's times where I guess my personality blacks out, or like I'm just a lack of a better term.
You go into quiet mode.
Yeah. Or like, but for this point of like, lighting up or being passionate, I definitely think I know what you mean in the sense that like all else shuts off and
you're
it's
like
like
in
I'm
your zone.
not thinking about, that thing that I was frustrated about from home, or I'm not thinking about, what are the family plans coming up? I'm no longer stressing about the little nuances of life. It's just like, there's a task, this is what we're doing, and this is what's fun at the moment. And I'm just like completely consumed. So that must be that's kind of my blackout in air quotes, right? It's like just completely dialed in.
Yeah. Well, we love to see you at your best, and we love having you on set. It's fantastic. So wrapping up here, I want to ask, what's next for you? Whether it's a month from now, 6 months from now, 2 years from now, I want to know what's next in your mind on the independent filmmaking front.
I think the biggest thing what's next for me is actioning and producing a lot of the passion projects, script ideas, story ideas that have been accumulating in the process of my mind, right? I said this to you like a week ago. I feel like my RAM is full. Like I feel like there's no more memory available. There's just like more ideas keep popping up, and it's like no, like finish with these before moving forward.
I don't know, man. Simple solution: just go to Canada Computer, pick up some more RAMs.
Where do I insert those? Anyway, so for me, as a producer, really want to challenge myself to move those projects forward. Learning how to work with a team and delegate tasks and find a team that's passionate to want to take on a project, and also like let go of some babies. Right? Like I feel like a lot of filmmakers, their passion projects are so precious to them. It can be difficult to, and I'm speaking actually now from my own experience. I think it's difficult to maybe entrust or think that other people can be let in on your idea or on your project. And so that prevents you from wanting to, you're just going to get stuck being like, I have to do this all by myself. Well, that is definitely not the case. And so for me, what's next is really leaning into reaching out for help, finding out how to, how to fund a project so it's not all self-funded, because that's another big thing is for filmmaking, I want to steer clear of the like favor projects, and I just want to like try to get into the standards of making sure that everyone on set is sort of being compensated for their time
Mhm.
and at professional rates too, because ultimate goal would be like professional producing that isn't just like client work, that isn't so that is narrative and television. But like I'm just a guy who likes to hold the camera right now. I don't have like a network of
You can do it.
angel
You have to start
investors.
somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Start somewhere. So schmooze the right people, find the right investors, find the right grants. I guess that's what's next.
Fantastic. Well, I'm really excited to see more from you, whether it's at Kino or working on other people's projects, or just, I'm excited to have you as part of more of my projects, and hopefully I can be brought into some of your future projects because you've shared some of your ideas with me, and I'm really excited to see where they go.
You have a really strong creative vision, so I would love to see more from you. Just the little bits I've seen, like different extreme line shots. Like you always have really interesting shots. Like like your little short films, like the plant thing. That's just really creative and out of the box. So I'd definitely love to see more from you.
Well, thanks, guys. I really appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, spoiler alert, we're really good friends, so we'll definitely be working on the next thing together.
Can't wait. So, Kevin, where can people find you if they want to see some of your short films and other work online?
The best places to find me online if they want to see some of my work, specifically like the works that I've put out, are probably YouTube.
I see on YouTube you're Kevin Laporte, but the channel is Laporte 10 at Laporte 10.
Yeah, so go to Laporte 10 on YouTube. You'll see I've posted some of the projects that we've talked about in the podcast today. I've also got some links to Gambit Entertainment, which is where a lot of the university projects.
Yeah,
and
I see Metalhead there.
Yeah, exactly. So those were a lot of earlier works that I worked on with another great team, Jordan Dawson and Angeli Panetta. Those were some. I'm so surprised I haven't introduced you guys. We all should play board games together. They're really fun gang, and also on YouTube, I'm trying to think of what else is up there.
You got Take It or Leave It, Catch and Release, Draw It, NMA.
Oh, so I was going to mention the Focus Film films that are on there. So from 2013, no, it was from 2014 to 2017. Every year at university we had like a 72-hour film fest.
Oh yeah. So
those were a lot of fun, and those were also what helped me sort of like hone in the short format, the short shorts, right? You got to write, shoot, and edit in a very condensed time frame.
Like you do with corporate.
Exactly. So, but yeah, I'm hoping to put up more of the like day job stuff that we've worked on. So currently just working on like figuring out what past projects I can share and what I can put on. I think that'll mostly be on Instagram though. So another place to find me is on Instagram. That's Kevin Laporte 10. I'll post up some stills of just like some of my favorite projects that we've worked on, some of our favorite clients, some of the cool stuff we've had the opportunity to capture. And those are the two. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn, but like, I don't know. We're much more visual, creative.
Yeah. Come find us on LinkedIn.
Yeah. I hope for LinkedIn is more of like reaching out to other collaborators, but I would say, YouTube and Instagram are like, if you just want to see some of the things I've worked on, that's the best place.
Perfect. And I can't wait to see what gets posted there in the future.
For sure.
So Kev, thanks so much for joining us on the podcast. We really appreciate it. We had a great time talking to you. And hopefully in the future, if we do an episode on Rogue One or Knives Out, we'd love to have you back to discuss those.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Thanks everybody for listening. And I can't wait to send you another episode.